Hi everyone, Stash the Anytime Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Doja Cat album, Scarlet. This is a new one from rapper, singer, songwriter, Doja Cat. Her fourth commercial project, and it comes after one of the most tumultuous and controversial album cycles to hit the mainstream in a minute. Recently, I recollect weirdly moral panics around artists like Sam Smith and Kim Petras with Unholy, as well as Lil Nas X. And Doja Cat too became one of the more polarizing artists in the mainstream by flipping some of the pop-friendlier bits of her public image on their head. If you're not familiar with Doja's trajectory, she is one of the bigger success stories out there in terms of a rap artist ascending into the pop sphere. Very much thanks to her embracing the sweet, pillowy, danceable aesthetics of huge hits like Kiss Me More and Say So. However, an issue for me up until this point is that I feel like the deeper cuts on her records are just not as interesting as her singles, especially when it comes to her last record, Planet Her, where you had a handful of fun and bold cuts surrounded by weird duds, spacey trap ballads with an R&B twist that featured very faint vocals and very little flavor. And for a while I felt weirdly alone in this opinion considering how much of a commercial success this project was. It's currently 2 times platinum and pretty much solidified Doja as a modern pop rap icon. But in starting promo for her new project here, Scarlet, Doja began publicly rejecting some of her past releases, saying on Twitter they weren't reflective of who she truly was as an artist, and basically admitting to selling out to drop these records and get a bag. And not only that, but if you liked these albums, you fell victim to some kind of trick or scheme. That's kind of an abridged version of events because there's a lot that happened between then and now with the album's release. Doja released multiple singles, she pissed off her fans, she got Christians, old heads, and conspiracy nuts up in arms over some very light satanic imagery. It was a whole roller coaster ride and definitely a bold switch up from the sexy, girly marketability that Doja had been pushing since she broke into the mainstream. And there's at least a nugget of valid commentary in that. Like, for example, when Doja dropped recently these very unflattering selfies, which saw men and women alike reacting to the horror of her daring not to look sexy on the internet. So I can definitely admire Doja Cat refusing to be pigeonholed in that way in the lead up to this record. This topic also comes up in album singles like Attention, but at the end of the day, I'm mostly interested in whether or not the music represents some kind of rebellion, especially given that Doja announced this project was going to see her going back in more of a rap direction, and a few of the singles in the lead up to this thing did show her getting a bit edgier. Whether that be on the song Demons, which is a distorted trap banger that has a mid-2010s SoundCloud aggro rap written all over it. The song has definitely grown on me since I first heard it. I do love the sort of tiny, shy, unhinged verse vocals on the track, the way that contrasts with how nasty the beat is. Also, Doja Cat on this chorus is very much giving, how do you like me being an asshole now energy. It's very much a Scarface, I'm the bad guy kind of a thing. There was also BALUT, which is a very smooth piece of jazz rap that's, yes, soft, but kind of unnerving too. Even if it's not loud and in your face, there is something supremely devilish about the aura of this one. And of course, there was Paint the Town Red, the biggest hit off of this project. And also the most listener-friendly song from the entire record too. Between the sweet Dionne Warwick sample, the booming pop rap beat packed with little snaps, plus Doja's smooth and ultra-melodic chorus is one of the biggest earworms of her entire career. I mean, the song went to #1. And while I like the track a lot, I have to ask, is this song some kind of massive departure from Doja Cat's pop-friendly past? Not really. So does that mean with this record, she's really just kind of selling a facade of rebellion? Is sidestepping a feature really the most daring thing that she could do on a new album? I do love that she's on Team Bald now, though. That's a good thing. But yeah, given the way Doja Cat has changed her tune on her past works as of late, I sort of think she's not the most reliable narrator when it comes to explaining what this new direction is all about. I mean, I'm not calling her a blatant liar, but I don't think she's above tricking her audience to get them to believe something for her own benefit. So there are about a dozen other tracks on Scarlet to go over. The record lasts almost an hour, and as I alluded to earlier, there are no other vocal guests on this project. Doja Cat is solo on this one. Now, the first leg of this LP, in my opinion, is one of the strongest. That is thanks in part to tracks like Wet Vagina, an unhinged banger that I think a lot of people haven't really kind of seen the point in, but she literally says on the track that she has drip, and she just, says that it's coming with Wet Vagina. Meanwhile, the rest of the track lyrically sees Doja mostly flexing designer clothing, her style, her fashion. So you can't say there's not like an angle or a point or, you know, a direction to this track, either topically or aesthetically, because the very bright cycling, repetitive synths and super aggressive beat sees Doja kind of flirting with more of a Playboi Carti-esque rage style. And I think in the case it absolutely works. I think she has the personality, the weird energy, and the vocal timbre for this kind of vibe. There's also Fuck the Girls, which goes in more of a boom bap direction and sees Doja Cat essentially rapping about the hate that she receives specifically from other women. The track is well structured, written, she is spitting her ass off with this one, and it seems to come from a real raw and personal place. It's a pretty surprising track to drop in 2023, mostly because when you have female artists dropping songs that address other women large scale, the message is usually one of like, you know, us, unity, we're together. And not to say the song is against that per se, certainly not. No, she's exposing more that togetherness angle is more for marketing, it's a mask, it's a facade, or it's just employed when convenient, which might be kind of a cynical take, but I mean, there is some validity there. Then Doja amps up the weirdness with the song Ouchies, which features a lot of old school sample hits, these very shrill chords. It's giving like early Eminem, but doesn't bring the flashy flows or lyricism to justify a track that is this level of annoying. Plus that bar, 100 Billies, I'm the goat, no Eilish, sounds like something M would put on a recent record that would just make me groan. Not to mention the filler chorus on this track too. It's one of a few moments that really could have used a feature of some sort. Now, at the midpoint of this record, we do begin to lose some steam with a lot of low-key cuts, some of which are decent, like with 97, which reminds me a little bit of Doja's old material in that it is chill, it's smoked out, but confident too, it's not trying too hard. The funny fragmented piano samples in the background work really well, and I think she has a lot of silly standout lines throughout the track, like the butterface, butterbody, butter toes bars. But then on the flip side, in this more low-key section of the record, we have Gun, which is a very soft, bubbly piece of trap with gentle vocal leads. It's pretty bland. It feels like Planet Her all over again. Plus the gun, dick, sex, double entendres are pretty basic and don't really hit all that hard, or at least in a clever way. They're just as surface level as much of her pop stuff, even if they are a bit more raunchy. I don't think the record starts picking up again until we hit a few of the love songs on it, like Agora Hills, which has one of the most legitimately intoxicating and alluring hooks on the entire record. Doja's descriptions of acts of love and devotion are pretty creative and detailed. There are some kind of funny spoken word bits throughout the track as well, where she puts on like this ultra girly affectation. You're capping to me so hard right now, you're capping! There's something also about her performance on this track that reminds me of like early 2010s internet rapper Kitty Pryde. Can't Wait is another cut that's all about love and devotion. That's not too bad. It's a lot more serious than Agora Hills. It's well rapped, well produced. I just can't help but feel like maybe this cut, along with a few others, adds to a bit of redundancy throughout the album. Just kind of seeing Doja having a limit of things to rap about. Following this often is one of a few cuts that instrumentally and even vocally to an extent is bringing some Tyler, the Creator vibes. It's almost like a palette that could have been somewhere on Call Me If You Get Lost. In the chords and vocal leads, there's something very Erykah Badu about it as well. I do like that this track does bring a legitimately raw and organic and kind of jazzy, soulful vibe. It's a nice addition aesthetically for a record that's at least trying to bring some level of versatility. But is this direction Doja's strong suit? Is this a great song? Not really. I think it feels more like a bit of filler, like a loose interlude or motif at the end of the day. Things do trail off a bit more on the tail end of the record, like with Love Life, where we hear some more kind of warbly, somewhat lo-fi jazz rap. And again, vibe-wise, it's fine. Flow-wise, it's not bad either, but does it bring the kind of wit and food for thought content that typically makes this genre interesting? Not really. We get more glamorous jazz rap with the song Skull and Bones, where again, Doja doesn't really have much to rap about other than just her haters, the critics, and criticism, which are there. It's not made up, but Much of the polarization coming in this new album cycle with Doja is very much manufactured, because a lot of the hate and division comes directly from her taking a very combative stance with her fans over whether or not she thinks they're doing too much because maybe they're a bit too impassioned and obsessive, or again, just liking her old stuff, which was allegedly just a cheap ploy to make some money. Which brings me back to the track BALUT, which on the standard edition of this record is the closer. And I have to kind of consider the hook on this track where Doja is, in a very soft voice, repeating that she's kind of taking candy from a baby, to which I have to wonder, was this album just another trick, another successful pop rap caper? I mean, the first week sales of this record out of the gate are not projected to be amazing, but they are decent. She did get a #1 song out of all of it and stirred a lot of attention. And to at least some degree, I imagine it has to be kind of gratifying for Doja to have taken at least some of her creative control back, even if this thing didn't end up being the boldest and most, out there and daring album that we're going to hear this year. But who knows? Maybe this record at the end of the day will end up being like the floodgates opening, a new beginning, a new chapter, where Doja Cat is creating as herself more authentically. I'm by no means in love with this record, but I do think there are a lot of great tracks on it. It is my favorite Doja Cat album so far, and maybe it could be the first step in something new for her career. I'm feeling a strong 6 on this record. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Doja Cat, Scarlet, forever.